And now we've got the new Mortal Kombat movie. So we're going to talk a little bit about that. But the first thing I want to talk about, which really annoys me, is the fact that it's an HBO exclusive, which means that HBO Max exclusive, which means that it releases there. But then there's, initially there was no sign. I think right now there's talks about the 6th of May is when it's going to release on other platforms. So they want that to be quite exclusive. But in my opinion, that's very, very stupid. I'm going to just be straight up there, right? Because they did something similar with Wonder Woman, right? And what that does is just encourages piracy, because sure, you can, I've got a VPN, so you can actually get a VPN and you can, have an HBO Max subscription and you can watch it that way. But the regular person is not going to be able to do that, right? The regular person is going to either ask somebody for a link or to some dodgy website, which will also infect your machine, which is another story altogether. But the point is that it's 2021, right? Gone are the days where you're going to silently wait for a movie to come out for weeks, right? Because there's going to be spoilers online. Everybody's going to be talking about it. It's going to be on YouTube everywhere. It needs to have a synced release, right? And this is something that really, really annoys me about this whole setup. I get the exclusivity element, but there's got to be a way that you can make it available to everybody.
I mean, part of it is not HBO Max's fault. Part of it is Warner Brothers' fault as well, is that, because of COVID and because two things, HBO Max launched last year, subscriptions were a little bit low. COVID was kind of just ruining movie releases, so things were delayed anyway. So in December, the head of HBO Max, Warner Media, which is their parent company, which is also owned by AT&T, by the way, came out and said, look, 2021 movie release slate will launch same day in theaters and also on HBO Max. So for us in the US who have HBO Max, we're like, this is great. And for me, I'm like, yeah, it's fantastic. I don't have to watch it. I was, geared up to watch, the Snyder Cut, saw Wonder Woman, Godzilla vs. Kong. The problem here was, and HBO never really addressed this, was they never looked, because they haven't launched officially internationally. Right, they're having their South American launch in June, and the UK is still pending. Which was more surprising, because I'm like, that should be the quickest, because we both speak English. Like, you should just be able to just transfer that over, right? Not South America next. But what happened was, with the Snyder Cut, a lot of people were like, how are we going to watch this? It's only on HBO Max. It's not even coming to theaters, any theaters anywhere. So they had to form last minute deals so you could show up on Sky and you could show up on different places. And I'm like, I get it. You had to rush this deal, but come on, you guys could have at least thought of a way of saying, okay, look, let it be, at least you can buy the movie and own the movie, right there.
Yeah.
Even if it costs a little bit more, but then at least you know that I'm buying it and I'm done, right? And then you're going to cut off that piracy that you're going to get, and you're going to have people watch it more, and you actually see a better benefit and more profits, no matter how you look at it.
Exactly, and there's so many streaming services now. YouTube offers streaming, and the ability to buy, rent movies. Amazon, there's so many services out there right now. And sure, if you can't strike up set it up where it's going to be launching in the same country, find an alternative, because otherwise, I mean, I'm sure if you looked at statistics of how much Wonder Woman and now Mortal Kombat was pirated, it's going to be very, very high, because most people are happy to pay and buy and watch a movie that they want to watch, right? But if it's gonna be 2 weeks later when you've already seen hundreds of spoilers online, then they're gonna be like, okay, you're essentially kind of like putting them into a corner, right? And it's something definitely needs to be done about that.
Yeah, it's one thing that affected me. I saw the stats for the Snyder Cut. As somebody posted it up on Twitter as the highest download, most pirated movie for at least the 2 weeks it was out before Godzilla vs. Kong came out. It was like a huge margin between everything else, and I was like, I think it was about $2 million. I'm like, that's 2 million people who didn't watch and watched it for free. So.
Yep. Now, this also kind of like, before we talk a little bit more about Mortal Kombat, this kind of like brings it back to the streaming situation, because obviously since COVID's hit, people are now like, okay, you've got these streaming options, which totally makes sense. But as if I was a film producer, my kind of thinking would be is once you're streaming something, it's so much more easy to pirate that than if it's in the theaters, right? You remember back in the day when you get people who used to like bring a camcorder into a movie theater.
Yeah, you see people's heads and
yeah, right. So that's now obviously if it's much more difficult to pirate something when it's in theaters. Now I'm hoping things start going back to normal and people start going back to theaters, because I still think that experience is unique and you can't replicate that no matter how good your home theater is, right? Just going to the movies is an experience
for
right?
for certain movies.
Of course, and I mean that's something that me and my friends always get together and go to watch these movies, right? But now once you've got the streaming option, it's kind of like, hey, you know what? I'll just watch it at home. It's just instead of paying however much for a ticket, you could just pay $15 or whatever it is and watch it all together. Just have people over, for example.
Maybe this will help change the way both streaming and movies in theaters work out. So one of the things that I found quite interesting with Mortal Kombat, and then I'm going to compare it quickly to like Snyder Cut and then Wonder Woman, because I saw all three, but one of them I saw in theaters, the other two were streaming. Was with Mortal Kombat, I saw dual reaction from people online. Some people really liked it, and some people didn't really like it at all, right? Which is also the same thing I had with Wonder Woman. I saw Wonder Woman in theaters, and I was like, okay, it's cool. And all my friends who watched it at home were like, this was a bloody waste of my time, And when I kind of watched it again, I was like, this movie's trash, because I sat down at home and watched it again. Okay, and then with the Snyder Cut, a lot of people liked it, but also was a very different experience, because now they were like, I would have never watched a 4-hour movie in the theater, but I could watch it at home. This is great.
Very good point. Very good point.
So hopefully this changes where we get like the big blockbusters, like the Godzillas, the End Games in theaters, where you get the full experience. And then even if you want to do something big at home, you can do something, not say like the Snyder Cut, but if you want to make it longer, if you want to make it episodic, if you want to even make it interactive, you can, because you now can tell a different kind of story entirely. For the audience. And that, look, like Disney Plus has 100 million subscribers. Netflix has 200 million subscribers. So which means if you drop it on Netflix, so for instance, I think I saw the tracking, Zack Snyder has Army of the Dead dropping on Netflix in May, and it's supposed to be like a blockbuster, just because there's so many people on the platform, and they're all going to be like, okay, what's on Netflix today? Friday, cool, play. So I think this is going to cause the studios to be at least just more sensible. Like you gotta be smarter, because your audiences now have choices. No longer are we forced to be like, okay, what's playing this weekend? I guess that's what we'll watch. There's a lot of options there.
It's such an interesting time with theaters and streaming, but I think going forward it's going to be a bit of a balance, because you're right, certain movies are just suited for the cinema, and certain movies are better at just being viewed at home. I hope you enjoyed that clip. If you want to hear the full podcast episode, then that will be linked down below, and if you want to see more clips like this, then be sure to subscribe and hit that bell icon so you don't miss them. Thanks for watching. This is Saf on SuperSaf Speaks, and I'll see you next time.